Welcome back to another episode of the Football Pundits, guys. This week it's all about the magic of the FA Cup. It's where your minnows like Arsenal and Chelsea stand a chance of an upset and maybe take the cup, right? The reason I mentioned Chelsea in there is, of course, because we have a special guest with us today. His name is Sanchit Gulubani. He is a
Oh,
Chelsea fan, of course.
hi Animesh, hi Abhishek, hi Karan. Hi Karan.
It's great to have you here. Abhishek, I think you can do the honors and just get right into it.
Yeah, I think the magic of the cup is back. It's going to be a truncated season, obviously. And the way every team is going to look at this is 1 month, everything to play for. So this is such a unique and different format of an FA Cup and a Premier League that we're looking at. We're going to jump straight into it. There are four fixtures, as you know. It's Leicester, Chelsea, Sheffield, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man City, and Norwich United. So four very big teams and four outsiders, so to speak, with regards to competition about it. So we'll jump straight into the first game, which is Leicester versus Chelsea. Sanchit, you're a Chelsea fan. You've had a fantastic result last night against Man City. You've gifted the title again to another club. This time it's Liverpool. But I'm sure the FA Cup is important for Frank Lampard and his men, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're very kicked about last night. I think Lampard finally did what Gerrard couldn't do for so many years, which is help Liverpool win a title. So for my all my congratulations to all my friends who are Liverpool fans. But I think last night should finally settle the debate on who's the better midfielder on a lighter note. Personally, I'm very excited for this fixture because I think there are a couple of players that rather I hope that Lampard really gives them a go and just gives a rest to key players like Willian. I think Kante really needs a rest. I would really like to see like the likes of Tammy Abraham, Pedro, Billy Gilmore. I'm really excited to see him play. So I really hope he lets these players play. I wouldn't call them fringe players because they have a lot to play for. I think if Tammy and Billy do get to play, they even at the back, I think Christensen took a knock, so he could play Zuma instead. He could give Reese a game because I think Aspie is not getting any younger. So all these players have so much to prove. And Leicester, for whatever reason, haven't started off the blocks after the lockdown. So I actually feel that with this team, we can actually go to Leicester and have a shot. And the players who've been playing have played two very high intensity 90-minute games can get a rest. And I'm pretty hopeful that they come away with a good result. And this is I think there's a really good chance they can win the FA Cup because as far as United is concerned, they are still 5 points behind us, so they'll be very focused on the league. City, we have shown that we can beat them. I think had Etihad also we played a really good game against them, and we were unfortunate not to come with a result. Arsenal is extremely beatable, or actually Sheffield may also beat Arsenal. So either way, Arsenal and Sheffield, if you want to win the FA Cup, you should beat them. So I actually think Chelsea have a very good chance. And I'm sure all of you will agree that if you asked any Chelsea fan at the start of the year when Hazard left, Lampard took over, things seemed like they were in a complete mess. We all said that top 10 is if we get top 10, it'll be a good season. But imagine the statement we can make if we actually finish third or fourth and win the FA Cup, especially with the kind of players waiting to come in next year. It'll really, really fire up the players who are already at the club. Like, I think Mason Mount and RLC have so much to play for given the rumors of the creative midfielders that Chelsea are going after. So I'm actually pretty kicked about it now. I just hope that, his team selection gives players who deserve a rest, and give the players who've been not got a game a chance to show what they're capable of.
So Sanchit, I think you've summed it up really well. Yes, Chelsea do have a chance of going all the way with the FA Cup. Obviously, because minnows do have a chance of winning this every now and again, as we've seen.
Just to ask you, before Liverpool won the title last night, which was the last team and the last manager to pick up a trophy in England other than Pep? it was Conte with the FA Cup. So that's how long Pep has been dominating for.
Okay, which is what I mean, right? Like Chelsea have this affinity of winning these smaller cups, like the FA Cup. But anyway, moving on in the interest of talking about Pep, I'm obviously just ribbing here. City face a Newcastle side, who of course are the true minnows in this round of fixtures, along with Norwich, of course. And I think this is going to be an interesting game because City obviously lost to this very buoyant Chelsea side last night. That's going to really be hurting them. They're going to have to go into the Liverpool game, giving them a guard of honor. That's probably going to play on the mind of City players, whether you want to talk about it or not. Whether they remove that on Newcastle is what I'm interested in. Just remove all that frustration, because this is a squad that's really capable of doing that. Newcastle themselves haven't been pushovers since the start of since the resumption of the league. Yeah? They won 3-0 against a really good Sheffield United side. They drew against Villa, unfortunately, but they were in that game as well. It's going to be an interesting fixture for sure. My only thing here to see in this fixture is how distracted are City going to be. Now they barely have anything to play for. Yes, Pep has said FA Cup is the only thing, so he motivates the players like that. So I see this could go one of two ways. One is they absolutely annihilate Newcastle, remove all their frustration from last night and the impending guard of honor, or they're just so distracted, so disheartened by that loss that it actually ends up being a close game. And I think that's what I think for City. But on the other side of Manchester, Abby, what do you think of United versus Norwich?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with City to absolutely annihilate them, because Pep's just got a squad that's so big and so robust right now that there's no talk of them being disheartened. Having said that, speaking of the red half of Manchester, look, it's the FA Cup. It's not the Premier League. Norwich are more or less relegated. I'm not sure if they're mathematically still out yet, but we all know they're more or less done for. The magic of the FA Cup is that, any game, especially a game like Norwich United at Norwich's home ground, Carrow Road or wherever it might be, it has that potential to really become a bouncy affair. Norwich will want to go out with a bang. I don't think they're going to look at this like it's going to be like a cup final now for them every single game, especially the FA Cup. So I'm not going to write off this Norwich team completely purely because of the FA Cup magic. But let's be honest, guys, I think United are just too strong for this Norwich side right now. They showed what they're capable of against Sheffield United, when the team really clicks. And to be fair, it was a team that, where arguably their best player, Pogba, didn't really click. Still, you had Martial, Rashford, you had Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who we criticized recently, putting in a top-notch performance in that. So I'd have to put my money on United taking an easy run on this. What I'll bring out, interestingly, in this, Ole has come out saying there will be rotation. So as a United fan, I'd love to see some new and fresh faces getting some match time. I'd love to see Bruno getting a break. Bruno's been playing non-stop for us, and I'd love to see him kept a bit fresh for our Premier League. So maybe Pogba to get 90 minutes, along with Pereira, Mata, James, Ighalo, who I really want to see succeed. There's a good chance Jesse Lingard might get some time as well, and it'll be interesting to see how he comes back after this break. That's my take on Norwich United. I think it's going to be fairly straightforward, which leads into our final fixture, which Annie will tell us why Sheffield United are favourites against this Arsenal side.
Yep, and also one more small point to mention: Wigan have done this before. They beat City after being relegated and won the FA Cup and played in the Europa. So it's not like Norwich don't have the motivation. Yeah. And talking about a team with motivation, Sheffield United have dropped out of the top 4 race, like we discussed last week. After the restart, the fixtures were too tough. They're now 8th currently. They might slip further down. Sheffield will really want to go for the FA Cup themselves now, and they have the squad to do it. And they're playing an Arsenal side who are abysmal. Let's not be fooled by the 2-0 against Southampton. They got quite lucky. The red card in the end and the second goal just made the result look better than it was. They had a very okayish game.
And the first goal was a defensive error, goalkeeping error. It wasn't attacking play. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, they did add some pressure on Southampton before that, but not enough to justify a 2-0 win. And not enough to justify that they're going to come out smashing in this game and destroy Sheffield. If anything, Sheffield should be worried about their own form and look inwards and not really worry about Arsenal. If Sheffield show up the way they did before the break, they have the squad and they have the players and they have the formation and they have the tenacity to break down this Arsenal side, because this Arsenal side has an Aubameyang who cannot score right now. Yeah. Arteta is trying to play him somewhere he's clearly not fitting in.
Yeah.
If you look at their defense, obviously it's in shambles. David Luiz might be back for this, I think, but I don't know if you want him back. I really don't know what you want from this side.
Yeah.
If I were Arsenal, I would be worried again. It's not one of those seasons where, oh my God, at least they have the FA Cup, and maybe if they win the FA Cup, Arteta can rescue something. I think it's going to be a very disappointing affair. I won't be surprised if Sheffield actually come out and win this 2-1 or get 3. If they do, if Arsenal do hold up and get a good result, then all plaudits to Arteta. He would have done a really good job turning this side around and getting his tactics on point, because Sheffield are hurting after the United loss as well. So they have a point to
Yeah.
prove. I think let's get into our predictions after this, because we've covered all the fixtures properly. Sanchit, we'll start with you. Give us the predictions for all the games.
Yeah, so I think all the traditional big sides, all of them will succeed. Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Man United. We'll have hopefully a London semi-final and a Manchester semi-final.
I agree with that. I'm not going to add too much to that. I completely agree with Sanchit. And if you're going for score lines, maybe the two of you can help us with that.
I honestly not going to go into score lines for all of them. For me, the slight difference, I think Sheffield United are going to go through. I'm not sure if it's the tiny little Sheffield fan in me, but I honestly think they are a better team than Arsenal right now. Sheffield will go in, Leicester to make it tricky, but otherwise the two Manchester teams to go through.
I think all of y'all have hit the nail on the head. I agree with exactly the same thing. I've given you a scoreline prediction already for the Sheffield game. I don't think we need to get into the other games. I do see a slightly comfortable win for Chelsea as well, actually. I don't think Leicester might get a goal in. They look very raggy, like Sanchit mentioned. So thank you, Sanchit, for joining us today in this episode.
Yeah, thank you.
We have, I think, covered the fixtures quite well. It is the FA Cup. Stranger things have happened. There could be upsets, but we don't think so on Football Pundits. So, guys, don't forget to hit subscribe. Follow us on our Twitter handles, including Sanchit. You can get him involved in this conversation. Hit him up, talk to him about Chelsea. Curse him if you want, and their chances of slipping back down to 5th or something. Maybe that will be appreciated by us. Yeah, we see that. Don't worry about that. So, goodbye, guys. See you in the next episode.